Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. Tasmania is steering clear of the Commonwealth Games poison chalice after Victoria's bombshell decision to walk away from the event. The skyrocketing price tag for hosting the Games could leave fans and athletes high and dry, while damaging the nation's reputation on the global stage.
For once, this Commonwealth is united because no one wants the Commonwealth Games.
Games will not proceed in Victoria in 2026.
Tasmania will not host the Commonwealth Games in 2026.
As the state once left off the map,
unfortunately no room for Tasmania,
refuses to come to its rescue.
Setting ourselves up for the Commonwealth Games in 2026, now in 2023, is a stretch.
For Victoria, it stretched the budget, originally slated to cost $2.6 billion.
It is in fact at least $6 billion and could be as high as $7 billion.
It leaves the event an orphan.
Beyond disappointing for us.
Blindsiding Commonwealth Games Australia, which disputes the cost blowouts and accuses Victoria of ignoring advice to move the Games from the regions into Melbourne, where the right infrastructure already exists.
The Victorian government has jeopardised Melbourne and Victoria's standing as a sporting capital of the world.
This is an international embarrassment.
When Victoria took on the Games last year, Tasmania made a pitch to pinch some of the pie.
There is no reason that sailing or road cycling could not be held here.
Now, state premiers are running.
We're not bidding for the Commonwealth Games and we're not going to take them up.
Highly expensive sugar hit of a 12-day sporting festival.
We've held more Commonwealth Games than any other country. Sydney 1938,
declaring the Games open.
Perth 62, Brisbane 82, Melbourne 2006, Gold Coast 2018.
Australians all let us rejoice because we've got a triathlon gold.
For now, it's game over. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
What could be among the biggest Tasmanian planning changes in a decade have been proposed by the state government. Large developments, including social housing projects, would head to an expert panel for a final vote. While welcomed by some, there are concerns about councillors being sidelined.
Frustrated by red tape and stalled developments, the state government's embarking on planning reform again.
This is about ensuring that we're taking the politics out of planning.
Proposing opt-in development assessment panels for larger projects. They would make the final call rather than councillors.
It'll mean we are better supported to boost supply of new housing, support a bigger Tasmania, support population growth.
However, it could apply to all types of projects. The idea does come with the backing of industry bodies, who say too often councils are scuppering plans.
It provides them certainty that if they are compliant with the current planning scheme, then their development will go ahead.
The Local Government Association says it's come as a complete surprise, with significant planning reform already underway, also noting only 1% of decisions are appealed.
Planning is the core business of council, and certainly it would be very disappointing at this stage until we know more detail for this to be taken away from councils.
The most important thing in any planning reform is that the community opportunity to have a say is maintained.
There's concern sidelining elected officials is undemocratic, with some saying the proposal is aimed to please developers.
There is a mechanism that if the developer, for example, thinks that this is an unfair decision, it can go to TasCat and be sorted out there.
There are still details to be hammered out. It's unclear if both the council and the proponent would need to agree to this new pathway, or if just one party does. It's also unclear if the right to appeal will be included.
The fact you've got the Planning Minister on holidays and the Premier coming out to announce it shows how desperate they are to shift the narrative about the failings of the government.
We want to ensure that we have a fair and transparent process, but also one that gets on with the job.
Draft legislation is expected this year, ahead of a bill being introduced to Parliament in 2024. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Paramedic shifts on the northwest coast are continually being left unfilled as pressure on the state's paramedics increases. To halve response times, the health union says about 130 new paramedics are needed immediately.
Paramedics at breaking point.
I've been in this job as a paramedic for 18 years. Coverage is getting worse and worse over time. We have had increased crews. It's getting too hard. The morale's too low. It's difficult.
With dozens of shifts left unfulfilled, paramedics on the northwest are feeling the brunt.
On Saturday night, there was 2 crews down out of 5 crews for the northwest coast region, which means, 40% of the available resources weren't even rostered on to start work.
The union claims additional paramedics are needed, with 130 required to halve response times. 40 of those are needed just for the northwest, but the state government says it has increased the paramedic workforce.
We've come good on our commitment when it comes to 45 new paramedics out in rural and regional Tasmania.
Simply not true. The 97 paramedics that they have made permanent recently have been employed by Ambulance Tasmania since COVID started.
Meanwhile, Labor would prefer to see more investment in the state's 18 district hospitals.
Making sure that Tasmanians, no matter where they live, can get access to services, improving access to emergency care, so taking pressure off our paramedics.
New ambulance stations in the northwest are budgeted, but critics say that's not enough.
Building new stations or improving current stations is not going to do anything to improve the ability for Tasmanians to get an ambulance when they call for one.
We have the potential to be the leading service in the country. However, we just don't have the resources to do that.
Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
An unusual visitor has arrived in Hobart, the Spirit of Tasmania 2 making an appearance on the River Derwent to undergo routine maintenance. The ship will be docked at Macquarie Wharf over the next few weeks, with deck and hull preservation and painting just some of the improvements on the agenda. The Spirit will set sail on August 7, returning to Devonport before resuming normal service. Tasmania's Army Museum has taken possession of a collection of rare and personal military artefacts dating back to the late 1800s. More than 200 items have been donated by a local family, with hopes it will educate the public about those who risked their lives in war.
Arthur Orchard's family has a proud history of service. His dad served in both World Wars, his mother in World War II, while his grandfather was stationed in India. The future of their military honours a big decision for him.
If the collection was dispersed among them, it would gradually disappear and become ineffective, where it's a strong collection on its own.
Hobart's Army Museum now the custodians of these prized possessions.
You just don't see it anymore, and it's extraordinary, particularly coming from one family.
They've assured me it'll be preserved here. It's going to be well maintained. It'll be on display.
Items include a German shell, historic photos, and 5 medal groups spanning 3 generations, including his grandfather's Indian service honours, which include a rare Delhi Durbar medal. A military medal won by Arthur's uncle and his father's military cross, set to also be on display.
They don't get these medals for nothing. It's an incredibly brave act, had to be performed to get the medal.
There's also a dispatch awarded by one of history's great figures.
Signed by Winston Churchill himself as Secretary for the Office of War.
And his father's diaries from Gallipoli and the Western Front. One entry outlining a near-death reconnaissance mission with future General Thomas Blamey.
They managed to get back to safety and report on the positions, and that saved a lot of lives.
Preserving written records important to Arthur.
If these diaries aren't preserved, then there's the history of this story is going to be lost.
Help us to tell a really poignant and true story about what went on.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
The runway is ready and hair and makeup is being touched up ahead of tonight's Miss Teen Australia and World Supermodel titles. A night of glitz and glamour is being promised in Launceston as the next beauty queen is ready to be crowned.
Bringing some sparkle to the Princess Theatre stage.
These pageants were wonderful for growing girls' confidence.
Dresses that dazzle taking over the runway, beauty queens coming from across the country, around the globe and some even closer to home.
I feel very proud to be representing Launceston in Australia. Yes, it's been an honour to be up on this stage and Every day has been exciting.
The next generation of top models waiting in the wings, learning how to walk the walk from the pros.
Once we were also that age, and it's so nice to see that sometimes we can see ourselves in the young ones.
Competitors hungry for their moment in the spotlight.
It takes confidence, it takes a strong sense of self. You have to really know who you are and be able to present that to everyone.
They'll go under the watchful eyes of a panel of judges, each looking for something unique.
Confidence, how they project themselves on stage. They'll be asked quite a few questions.
I went for more like Wednesday Addams look. I felt like I needed to do something a bit different. I mean, the glitter and bling is fabulous, but I felt like I needed to go a little bit more different just to stand out a bit.
The hills are out, with the details falling down to the last sequin before the winner is crowned later tonight. Victoria Easto, 7 Tasmania News.
The decommissioned dam at Tolosa Park will soon take on new life as parklands. The future of the site was put to the Glenorchy community, who said they wanted an expansion of the green space already at the site.
More picnic shelters, more walking trails, open space area that we can enjoy right in the foothills here of Kinarney, Mount Wellington.
The site will be transferred into a gently sloping site. There'll be a number of small ponds in recognition that it used to be a dam.
Engineering company Gradeco will complete the $6 million project, beginning works in September.
Scott Roth says his recent American sabbatical has him refreshed and rejuvenated for the upcoming NBL season. Arriving back in Hobart today, he's warned the Jack Jumpers' new star signings they're not guaranteed anything unless they play to the system.
Back behind the wheel of a new car.
Wow.
And the Jack Jumpers for a third season. Scott Roth is hoping to drive home the same culture that's made Tasmania's team hard to beat.
Just trying to get better from week to week. How can we make improvements, not get sidetracked by any other teams or what they're doing.
He's ready to go after a break in the United States, which included a stint at the NBA Summer League.
It's done wonders for me just mentally, and to kind of pump the brakes a little bit to get through these last few months and just kind of step back and be on a normal schedule. I think it's been done probably everyone wonders.
This season, a changing of the guard. Josh Majette among 6 players not returning. However, the coach says that's not always a bad thing.
There's a core group that we're trying to keep together here for the next few years. We'll keep trying to add to that group, but I think it's always good to have some fresh bodies in and fresh faces.
But the new guard, which include Marcus Lee, Jordan Crawford and Majok Dang, are on notice.
Talked to Majok Dang yesterday. He had 39 and 19. He was a little excited on the phone, but I said, you won't play for me unless you rebound and defend. And
also forecasting a delayed start for Will Magnay's pre-season.
We're all kind of waiting to see him in person, but I think he's a few weeks out at least.
A mini-camp followed by a training camp at Ulverston will tip off pre-season. As for a season prediction,
I guarantee you we'll finish 1st through 10th. I just don't know where it's going to be.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
The Hurricanes are right behind Mac Wright. The team has re-signed the 25-year-old batter on a 1-year deal. It'll be his 5th season in purple. Despite being in and out of the squad last season, the Hurricanes say Wright is one of the club's long-term prospects. The Victorian Commonwealth Games might be off, but Tasmania's best young hockey players still have the Brisbane Olympics to look forward to. 9 Tasmanians took another step towards being in the mix for the 2032 Games after being picked in the Australian Future Squad, a special program for developing the nation's best under-18 talent. Isabel Krumick is in for round 2, having gone through the program last year.
Getting all the experience from extra coaches and then the strength and conditioning work and even the mental side of stuff just really helped.
I think it's really important to be able to have the support around me, and that extra training I think will definitely help.
Oliver Stebbings was player of the tournament in the recent under-18 Nationals in Hobart, which our boys side won.
Today, Hobart 15 degrees, Launceston and Burnie 12, Devonport 13. Friendly beaches, the state's top today with 16, 13 for Flinders Island, Low Head, St Helens, Marai Island, Grove and Ouse, King Island, Smithton and Strawn 12 and 4 for Lyweenie. Cloudy conditions continue about Tasmania with low-level cloud fast approaching the east and the northeast. A frontal cloud band lies over the state, as well as southwestern WA. Mid-level cloud partially covers parts of Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. Tomorrow, a high lies over southern eastern Australia as a cold front and associated trough moves over WA. Tomorrow, southwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots, although up to 35 knots, about eastern waters. The west and south can expect west to southwesterly swells up to 5 metres. A gale warning has been issued for coastal waters from St Helens Point to southeast Cape. There is also a strong wind warning from Sandy Cape to St Helens Point, also from southeast Cape to Sandy Cape, to include Frederick, Henry, Norfolk, Storm Bay and the Channel. A warning continues for sheep graziers in the southeast. Tomorrow, partly cloudy conditions for Hobart and Geeveston, a morning frost, and 9 for Bothwell. Launceston and Cressy can expect a morning frost also, sunny and 11 in Devonport. Burnie and Strawn both 11, windy and cloudy in Curry. St Helens, Swansea and Alford all partly cloudy, 12 degrees. To the 3-day forecast, Thursday, isolated showers about parts of the north and west, with snow falling to around 800 metres. Friday, early showers about the west, far south and the Bass Strait Islands, easing and contracting to the west during the morning, with snow to 700 metres. Saturday, showers about the west, extending to the north during the afternoon, mainly fine elsewhere, those northwesterly winds becoming fresh and gusty in the afternoon. Across the nation tomorrow, Broome, sunny 31 degrees. Brisbane and Sydney, sunny conditions. Melbourne can expect 14 degrees. And currently in Hobart, they're experiencing showers with 8 degrees, Launceston partly cloudy with 10, mostly clear in Devonport. Now a very special thank you to Miller and Spencer from Bellareve, who've sent in these beautiful weather-inspired artworks. They were stuck inside during school holidays, Kim, very impressive, 11 years old, and they tune in each and every night.
Well done, Miller and Spencer. Great effort. Thank you very much, Kaya. And that is all your news for now. We'll have news, sport and weather updates throughout the evening. Thanks for joining us. Good night, everyone.